Hello everyone, Enoch and I will be presenting a secret your printer has been hiding from you. You may think that the printer prints exactly what you tell it to print, but in reality, if you zoom in close enough, the printer adds its own watermark, or fingerprint, to each document that you print. By scanning a document we printed at the library at 1200 dpi, and zooming in we can see some tiny yellow dots scattered all throughout this document. This is known as a machine identifiable code, or more colloquially known as tracking dots. These dots are able to encode information such as date, time, and serial number of the printer. The yellow dots are only printed by laser printers, which use granulated plastic powder as opposed to the common household inkjet printers. We don't know when exactly printer manufacturers started developing and using these tracking dots. However, we do have some clues. In 1992, Fujifilm applied for a patent for a dot reading system. The stated purpose of the system is to prevent illicit reproduction of documents through the use of a circular image of a specified color. Then in 2004, PC World reports that the Dutch railway police were able to track down a group that were counterfeiting tickets using a hidden feature in color laser printers. A month later, PC World conducted an interview with a senior research fellow at Xerox and confirmed that the serial number of the printer was encoded within yellow dots. In 2005, the Electronic Frontier Foundation deciphered the Xerox DocuColor forensic dot pattern. Fast forward to 2015, the EFF received documents through the Freedom of Information Act that suggested that all major manufacturers of color laser printers entered a secret agreement with governments to ensure that the output of those printers are forensically traceable. How does one go about detecting these tracking dots? There are four main ways of finding the tracking dots. The first is to use a blue light to show the yellow dots. With this method, the yellow dots appear as black instead of yellow. It is also helpful to have a magnifying glass, but it is not necessary. The second way is to scan the printout and adjust the colors. This can be done with various graphics editors such as GIMP and Photoshop. Enoch will demonstrate this method later in the presentation. The third way is to use forensicdots.de, print out the dot spotter test sheet, and scan and upload the printout to the website. In our experience, we were not able to get a dot pattern with this method, but it may still work for you. Finally, there is a Python program on GitHub called Data, created by DFDTUD, which is able to detect the tracking dots of any scanned document. Now Enoch will do a demonstration of how to show the tracking dots with Photoshop.
Hello, this is Enoch, and welcome to this little tutorial on how to expose the microdots on a page, and also we will go and highlight them. We will later also show how to overlay them on top of each other from multiple pages, such as these. We have high quality scans of all these pages, all at 1200 dots per inch, the highest resolution most scanners will scan at. So if we open this in Photoshop, we're going to first start by duplicating that layer. We'll also have another layer where we will use our brush tool over it. But first, we're going to add a little bit of adjustments. I already zoomed in, but here's the entire page. And if you look closely, you might even be able to see the dots. But to see them better, that's what we have the adjustments for. So we go up here to Image, Adjustments, different levels. We're going to basically put this all to the right for red and green. I guess I forgot to show what the channels, different channels. So here are the different channels, and on red, green, and blue, you don't really see that, but in blue, if you get close, you can actually see the little dots, but it doesn't happen with the other ones as well. Blue has the best results, and so that's why we're going to be isolating that channel specifically. So now we're going to go back to our layer. Again, move these to the right, and we'll start to see the dots up here. So that looks pretty good. As you can see all the dots throughout the page. You can even start to pick up patterns, and some of them, like right here, they look similar. So this might be the same thing. You see that, like, upside down L. The pattern usually repeats around this area, and so we want to actually we want to highlight a good amount of the page so we have multiple sources. Basically, we have to find a pattern. So in some instances, we might not have the dot, and in some instances, we will. So we just got to see when we overlay them with each other where that pattern, what the most accurate pattern is, basically. So now we're going to lock this layer. We're going to move in. I'm going to get my brush. I'm going to use a nice bright red for this. And I go over and highlight the darker points. And I'll just basically cut to when this process is done, but it's basically the same thing, just highlighting where the points are black. Okay, so I finished highlighting some more areas. Now, I did this a little off camera, but I created a group to put that in there. And now I'm going to create another group. And here's where we'll work with our new layers of just the dots. So I'm going to duplicate that 3 times. And you'll probably do this for how many regions you might have. So I have 3. And now I'm going to hide that because I don't need it. I'm going to create another layer because you want to be able to see your dots clearly, and this layer will we'll just fill it with some contrasting colors, so color black, and now you'll be able to see it. I'm going to lock this layer since we're not going to manipulate it. So as you can see, there are 3 regions we have. We select our one layer, we'll move it.
Now that Enoch has showed us these dots, what do they mean? Here's an example of a dot tracking pattern by Epson. Using the data tool that recognizes the Epson dot tracking pattern, we see the information such as time, date, and serial number. How about we try interpreting the dots by hand? Each column represents 1 bit for a total of 1 byte. Column 7 is 1, column 6 is 2, column 5 is 4, so on and so forth until column 1, which is 64. Column 0 is used as a parity column to ensure all rows get an even number of dots for error detection. With that in mind, the month is 2, which we get from column 6, plus 8, which we get from column 4. Column 0 is not used as part of the calculation for the month. We see what the rest of the rows encode, and now we know how to read the dot tracking pattern. One notable case of the US government using these tracking dots is when the FBI was able to identify Reality Lay Winner as the person who leaked government documents to The Intercept, describing Russian military attempts to interfere with the 2016 presidential election days before the November 8 election. Aside from the fact that The Intercept published these documents unredacted, the documents still had tracking dots when they were scanned and published on their website. Under the Espionage Act, Winner agreed to a plea bargain to serve 5 years in prison. The U.S. government, with the cooperation of distributors and manufacturers, were able to identify Reality Winner with no legal process, no judicial oversight, and no notice to the person spied upon. Some have said this may violate the rights to protection of personal data and privacy. Clearly, these tracking dots cannot be ignored by whistleblowers. Now, what are some ways that a whistleblower or even an ordinary person can protect themselves right now? The easiest method is to print in black and white and have the color cartridges removed from the laser printer. Suppose you aren't able to print in black and white or remove the color cartridges, then using data created by TFT-TUD, you can apply a mask so the printout is anonymized. Additionally, a printout with tracking dots that has already been scanned can have either the dots removed or a mask applied to anonymize the scan. Using the data tool, the dots on the left were rendered useless when a mask was applied, as seen on the right. A more long-term approach is to call the printer manufacturer and let them know that you are against their dot tracking practices, and spreading awareness on social media and telling your friends and coworkers about the tracking dots can pressure printer manufacturers to stop. If enough people voice their concerns, then there could be real change enacted. Thank you for listening.